We have people who have been with us for 25 years plus, and some of them are as far away as Australia. So I can go ahead and tell you all the things that we do, but it would sound a lot like a lot of other different VARs. So suffice to say that we partner with all the usual suspects. We do focus obviously on those items I mentioned before. We do things like the product analysis, as well as obviously all the legwork, and then deliver the solutions. Where we are different is when it comes to professional services. Our practice areas, again, virtualization, security, and gosh, yeah, all the other things that we do. We also do, besides the logic plumbing, we also do all the hardware stuff, right? So we also do the things like if you need to move a data center from point A to point B, we will do that. If you need your network installed, if you need wiring and cabling or surveillance or security gates, we'll do that as well. Again, what makes us different is the fact that our practice managers are also part owners in the company. So they will always lead a they'll always lead a discussion for the statement of works, for the creation of the statement of works, and they'll own the statement of works. And what that does is it saves us a lot of time. It ensures that we have a meeting of minds at the outset. So that's kind of what makes us that different. So once you engage with our professional services, you will notice that difference. From time to time, then we invite some of our partners to join us to provide a presentation to you. And this is an opportunity for them not only to show what their latest developments are, what their roadmap is, that sort of thing, or maybe something very current that we'd like to share with you, but it's also your opportunity to save a lot of valuable research time. We know that all the websites, they all sound very similar, they look very similar, very flashy, and there's always an FAQ, but not always do you get the answers that you want. So here's the opportunity to ask the people who actually know in person what you need to know to see what product would be better for you. Today, we have Palo Alto Networks here. We actually have Cloud Harmonics, which is an Ingram company or division that focus entirely on security. We have with us a couple of their experts. We have Sean Mininger, who is their CISO, Chief Security Officer, and we also have Jay Freiberg, who is their sales manager. They're going to partake in this presentation. The format today will also include some trivia questions, and the winners will receive gift cards. That's part of the swag that we do as well. On that note, I'm going to ask Jane, who's behind the scenes all the time. She's the glue that keeps all this sort of thing together. I'm going to ask Jane to share with us the initial questions, please, just so we can get used to this format. Ah, look at that. The website has 4 areas of expertise. What are they? And I expect that there's going to be, oh, here we go. Oh, I'd like a real-time update.
Yes, that's correct. So we're gonna kick off with the first question. And is it information security, virtualization, cloud consulting? And those are 4 areas on the website. Again, we do a lot different variety of services as well, but on the website, there are 4 key areas that are located. So now 10 seconds, about 10 seconds, 46 seconds are up. So let's end the roll and show the results. And it's A, and let's share your opinions. Yes, majority of you guys know. Thank you very much for joining or checking out our website. And now next question is, so what our KIS says, it has a specific focus as a differentiator from other similar companies. What is that focus? Is it repeat business, lead time, experience, or client needs? What is it? And you have 10 seconds to 15 seconds to answer this. About 16 seconds, 17, let's get one more second, and let's end the poll. And we have, oops, of course, we have clients. Client needs are important to us. And of course, we have not just repeat business, we're not about that, but our focus is client needs. So
the customer service angle is really what differentiates KIS, really is.
And now let's get started with the presentation. Thank you very much for playing the first part of TRIA.
And we're gonna hand off now to Sean Menninger. Take it away, Sean.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean Menninger. I am channel CISO for Cloud Harmonics and Ingram Micro as well. Can everyone see my screen okay? One of the things that I wanted to cover today, I'm going to do I have two main things I'm going to cover. Number one, I'm going to give an example of the threat environment that we're dealing with. And then number two, some of the ways we can solve for that. So in my day, I've been doing cybersecurity for 30 years. I like to joke around back when the word cyber was only used in comic books and Doctor Who episodes. And back when things were getting started, you know, the threat environment was usually a bunch of teenage boys drinking too much Mountain Dew and eating too much Cheeto in their parents' basement. It was a different world. But nowadays, the threat environment's very different. We are dealing with well-funded nation states. We are dealing with very well organized crime. Actually, sometimes one and the same. And so the threats that we're dealing with are much more difficult. They're much more deep and insidious and much more difficult to deal with. So I want to discuss an example of this, and that would be Conti, the Conti Ransomware Group. This is a Russian ransomware as a service group. They put together a group of expertise, and I guess their idea was it's a lot easier to make money, encrypting other people's data and holding it for ransom than it is for them to get a real job. And unfortunately, there are a lot of situations where that is the case. So Conti's actually been around for quite a while. They've been really in the news. You started seeing them in the news quite a bit more in 2021. I have a list. It's probably not very easy to see, but you can see here. Here's a list of, and this is not a complete list, but this is just an example list of some of the attacks that we know about just in 2021 alone. Now, this is important because these are only a small portion of the attacks that we know about and those that were declared. A lot of ransomware attacks, companies don't want to admit that they have been breached. And so this is only what we kind of know about. There are a lot of companies that actually go ahead and pay and keep things quiet. And so what happens is this becomes very lucrative. And so the Conti Group's an example of, we estimate that there was they've made at least $150 million in 2021 alone. Now, if you think about that, if you get together a group of maybe 100 hackers, and split 150 million, that's very tempting for them. And so this is the type of group that we're dealing with. This would be an example of what you would see if your data was compromised and thereby encrypted. And that's what they would do is that they would hold your data. It's called ransomware because they would hold that data for ransom. So they would encrypt it in such a way that they were the only ones who had the key. Now, this was especially insidious because number one, not only did you not have access to your data, and data is actually what's important if you think about it. That data is what's really valuable. They not only had stopped you from having access to your data, but they had access to your data. So there was twofold. Number one, they held you hostage. And number two, they potentially sold your information, sold the data that they were finding. If they found it to be valuable, they would actually turn around and sell it on the open market. So now you got two issues to deal with. How do I get access to my data? And how do I keep that data from someone else to getting out to somebody else? So this went on, obviously it was very lucrative, but in a lot of cases, when you have a lot of money involved, what you ended up happening is that you started to have some splits going on. And so one of the very interesting things is that you actually had a member of the Conti group, disgruntled member, that actually published their playbooks. And so we got to get a good deep dive into how they did things, how they worked, the methods that they used, the processes that they used. What was very interesting about this is we oftentimes think that these type of, hacker gangs or whatever you want to call them, we oftentimes think of them as, I don't know. I would say amateur. We think of them as just folks that are in their on their laptops, hold away at Starbucks or something. But no, this was a very well organized group. It was run like a corporation. So it was organized and run like a corporation. They had the executive staff. They had all that, and they were paid out accordingly. So if you think about that, that's very interesting. The level of professionalism that this group put together. Now, well, fortunately for us, though, that apparently there was some disgruntled members of that, and they ended up falling apart. But the thing is that the Conti group in and of itself actually kind of dispersed. And so now what you have is spinoffs. Because this is a evolving threat environment, and because, quite frankly, it is illegal activity, a lot like gangs that you would find that were running illicit activities, you have varying alliances that go on. And so this means that not only is it a difficult group to deal with, but as it has splintered, it means that the threat environment is constantly shifting. And so the example I wanted to bring, just as a quick note, was number one, the difficulty of the adversary that we're dealing with. Okay, it's not an easy world. We are dealing with very well-resourced organizations, very well-organized organizations, and it's a constantly shifting environment that creates a tremendous challenge for us to protect ourselves. Now, this is a scary situation. I don't think I need to tell any of you that. We know you can't nowadays. You can't go on the news without seeing some other kind of breach. And the difficult part is that I actually often say, I believe right now, the biggest threat in our industry is actually not the latest ransomware or the latest zero-day attack. It's actually the lack of expertise. The problem is, how do we deal with this? Who are we going to call to help us deal with this threat that has the level of expertise? And so that's a big deal. We're going to address that in just a few minutes, but just to reiterate, it's a scary situation that we are working in. How many companies are one breach away from bankruptcy? And so in a few minutes, we're going to circle back and talk about how we can help deal with that. But for now, I think, Jane, you've got some more trivia questions. Isn't that right?
Are you there, Jane? I don't know, Sean, can you dance?
Well, I can do a two-step. I am in Texas.
Let's continue until Jane gets back. Let's do that.
All right. So that's okay. So let me reshare my screen then, and let's talk a little bit about then what we can do. That was my cue, by the way, folks. That was my cue for it's the next trivia questions, but we're going to move on. The threat environment is constantly evolving, and so our tools also have to constantly evolve. Our tools and our level of expertise is constantly got to stay one step ahead. Traditional approaches to security are very difficult. So take, for instance, your traditional methodology of antivirus. All right, we all kind of know, antivirus. And the problem with that is that traditional antivirus applications that you might run on your laptop, they can really only match about 50,000 signatures, between 30 and 50,000 signatures. There are millions of signatures of known threats. There are millions. Unfortunately, because of the way that works, there's no way that your traditional antivirus would be able to download the signatures for a million different threats and continuously compare. So that turned out not to be practical. So the old way of handling antivirus on your endpoint is no longer really practical. It's not realistic. And so that model has had to shift. Now, the other problem is that the changes, it's not like once upon a time when we encountered a threat, you had a small group of experts who would detect the threat, and they would analyze it, and they'd figure out what they would do. They'd do some forensic to figure out what happened and how it worked, and then they would write a signature manually. The average time to signature was roughly around a month, okay? Well, the problem is that new threats are happening so quickly. And there's in such a volume that we just don't have the ability to manually go through and create signatures anymore. So the method for creating signatures is outdated, and the method for matching signatures is outdated. And so the old ways that we've kind of handled these kind of threats, they're not really the way, it doesn't really work very much anymore. It's not fast enough. And so in understanding the threat environment that we're at, we need to figure out, okay, what's the strategy we're going to take to deal with it? How are we going to deal with it? We're going to detect it and respond to those threats. So I apologize, this slide isn't as pretty, but I wanted to go over kind of some of the components that goes into dealing with these threats. Once again, traditionally we had the antivirus, but the antivirus on your endpoints, there was just known threats. But new threats are popping up. How do you deal with it? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, we still, on an EDR, an endpoint detection and response tool, okay, we still do have ability to detect known threats, okay? But we also look at behaviors. So let me give you a kind of an analogy. I'm a simple country boy from Texas. I have to work with analogies here. So I have some kids, and I don't necessarily need to know exactly what they're sick with to know that my kids are sick. What I mean is I can often tell my kids are sick because of the symptoms. Say, for instance, if my daughter's coughing or has a stuffy nose or a fever. Those are indications, all right, that she is sick. I don't necessarily have to know exactly what virus or bacteria she has in order to know they're sick, because I can recognize known behaviors, okay? They're known indicators. And so what modern endpoint EDRs, endpoint detection and response, what modern tools do is they say, I am going to look at known threats, but I'm also going to look at known behaviors. So I'm going to be able to detect, hey, I see something going on. I don't necessarily know exactly what it is, but I can see that something's wrong. Now, in theory, the ratio right now is about 50% block, 50% detect, where we can detect it. So that's one thing. But what we found is that running an endpoint client singularly on your individual laptops or desktops did not really work. What we needed to do is we needed to be able to communicate and centralize the detection of those threats. And so when you hear the term EDR, okay, that has now evolved into an XDR. That's what we're here to talk about with Palo Alto's Cortex XDR. Cortex XDR takes the endpoint and it moves it into an extended detection and response. What that means is that all of your clients on all of your laptops, all of the Cortex clients that are installed on your laptops are actually feeding that data and receiving data from the Cortex XDR, and they're feeding it into the data lake. So now what we have is we have this data lake, this big group of data about all of the information coming in from all of our endpoints. This all comes together to allow us to be able to integrate that information and normalize that information. But XDR takes it a step further, and we are also able to pull in other security controls, like network security controls. Take, for instance, your firewalls. So if you run Palo Alto firewalls, you can actually feed information from your network security devices, as well as your endpoint devices, into that data lake for further analysis. All right, so this gives us a huge amount of useful information that allows us to put together information for indicators of compromise, to be able to detect threats and alert you when threats happen. So that's what the XDR does. It compiles all the information from your endpoints and from your network security controls, your firewalls, normalizes the data, correlates the data, recognizes indications of threat, and sends you an alert. So that's what Cortex XDR is. Next is you have the Cortex XSOAR. What is a SOAR? A security orchestration, automation, and response tool. What a SOAR does is it takes that information, it says, okay, now that we've detected a threat, what are we going to do about it? I mentioned earlier that one of the biggest threats in our industry is actually lack of expertise. There's just not enough people. There's not enough good guys to fight the bad guys. So what do we do? Well, we automate it. And so Palo Alto has not only automated through machine learning and AI detection of threats, but also allowed you to have better tools for automating the response. So automated response, you can create workflow playbooks. Hey, if this happens, what do we do about it? It actually includes collaboration tools. So if you detect you get an alert and you're running through, it can create an incident, and you can bring other people in to investigate with you for forensic purposes. So you have incident management as well. So the idea is the XDR component recognizes and alerts you on threats. The XSOAR component is what allows you to automate response and deal with the incidents in and of itself. It's not enough to know something's wrong. We've got to figure out what to do about it. Now, the last piece I wanted to talk about, because I am short on time, I apologize, was an MDR. So we know what an EDR is, we know what an XDR is, but there's an MDR, a managed detection and response. What is that? Well, if you think about it, the XDR utilizes endpoint and firewall network security controls together, analyzes it to recognize threats and give you an alerts. The SOAR helps you automate your response, okay, what to do about it. But you still have to have someone who knows what they're doing to do that. An MDR takes those tools, your XDR and your XSOAR, it takes those tools and they take care of it for you. So an MDR is a service that utilizes the Palo Alto tools. So Cortex, the Strata firewall, the Cortex XDR, all together, coming together, and you would have an MDR service, and that would be someone like an Arctic Wolf or a Critical Start, where you would actually have them engage them to manage this so that they can kind of take care of that, so that you don't have to have that expertise on staff. So this is an example of the portfolio. We still have the Strata, which is the network security. That's the firewall, VM series, physical VM, container. We have Prisma, which is our SASE, which is that secure access mechanism, right? Be able to utilize the internet securely, data in motion. And then there's the Cortex, that's that endpoint connection, that XDR, putting it all together. Palo actually does have Unit 42, which are consulting services. So if you do run into incidents and you do get breached, they actually can provide incident response, forensics for legal purposes. To be honest with you, even simple things like, not simple things, but ransomware negotiations, Bitcoin purses, those type of things, those type of security services, okay? Now, also, please note that remember what Christian was saying is that KIS is actually there to provide that help and that services. They're the ones who pull all this together for you and make all this work. They're the ones that provide that expertise. All right, Jane, I think that's all I have. I'm going to give my screen back. We skipped the trivia, so you've got a couple of trivia questions coming.
Yes, no problem. Yes, thank you so much. Let's do this. Share this with you. So this is our what, third question. It's just a second. Let me give a second. I have a lag here in the office, the internet. And so can you see everybody? Just can you see my
You see the
date or
question.
yes, good. Let's see. So
Yeah, we actually see yours. That's better. Now we see the question as opposed to your whole screen.
yes, good. So in May 2022, the United States offered how much revenue for information on the Conti Ransomware group? Let's see the launch it so you have some chance to. Is it a 5, 1, 10, or 15 million? And let's do 15 seconds. You get your questions in. And this question is worth $25. And we only will have one winner per question. And here's the result. Let's see. And that's 15 million. It's D. Congratulations. And let's share it. Let's see. Yes, good. 52% of you guys know that it's 10 million. Good. Thank you for listening. Bravo. Let's do the next one.
Makes you wonder if that was the person who shared all the information, a disgruntled employee who collected that 15 million, and he actually gets a chance to spend it.
Yes, yes. And let's do the next one. What is the name of criminal organization behind Conti? And is it Spider Monkey, Spider Trap, Wizard Spider, or a Wizard Robot? Let's give 15 seconds to answer this question. Here, more.
Looks like it's trending.
Yeah, it's ending. Good, good, good. Let's share results. And it's what, Wizard Spider. Good, good job. Yay. Congratulations to those who answered correctly. Now we're on to our fifth question. Palo Alto network detects and prevents Conti ransomware in the following way. Is it next generation firewall, Cortex, autofocus, or all of the above? Let's get 15 seconds to answer this question. Good. We're gonna end it and see it's all of the above. Congratulations. Good. Show the results, and 80% answered correctly. So it's not just Cortex XDR, but all the next generation firewall and autofocus that they do focus on protection. And our final question is, what percentage of security professionals are not satisfied with their ability to detect attacks? Is it 30, 51, 65, or 77%? You have about 15 seconds, and it's almost 12 seconds, 13, 15, and done. Good. And it's
51, is that all?
51. Gosh. Yeah, and see, yes. Well, that's good. No one answered 30%, but it's 51%. So 4 people who answered correctly, congratulations. And this is it. This is the game. Congratulations. Thank you very much for playing trivia game with us.
Now, Jay needs to finish the presentation. Is that correct?
Yes, Jay, correct. And let me just stop sharing my screen, and he will tell us some great news, some final thoughts. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, you're on mute.
let's try this. That work better?
A lot better.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, appreciate everybody's attendance today. Hope you found our presentation useful and just kind of, created some additional awareness out there on, how these groups operate and, the whole Palo Alto platform that's out there and, how you can continue to build your security posture through KIS and Palo Alto networks. As an additional thank you today, we just wanted to throw this offer out there that if you would be interested in setting up a meeting with KIS and Palo Alto, we will send you a $75 Blenders eyewear gift card so you can go onto the website out there, pick out some nice shades for the summertime. So please take advantage of that offer. And also just wanted to highlight a couple different training offers. So Cloud Harmonics partners with KIS on Palo Alto, and Cloud Harmonics is the #1 training center in the United States for Palo Alto. We've trained more engineers than any other company. We've got top-notch teachers with real-world experience in addition to training the courses. So just wanted to share this with any members that are out there today. If you would like to take advantage of this, Jane will be sending this out in a follow-up email. But we have a free one-day class. It's from a $500 class, but we're covering the cost today. And so if you'd like to go take a one-day training on Strata, Cortex, or Prisma, you are able to grab this voucher that'll be in that email. It'll bring you out to the Cloud Harmonics website. They are live virtual classes, so there'll be a date and time that you'll sign up for. You'll get a hands-on, you'll get some courseware and in the classroom, a live instructor. You get hands-on labs to play around with, question and answer as long as you'd like to stay in there. So I find this really valuable out there if you'd like to check out more about one of those other products, or maybe you have a new engineer at your company out there, and this would be a good one-day class for them to jump into to learn more about your Palo Alto infrastructure. And lastly, for the more senior engineers out there, this is a very good offer that we have just going on for the folks today. But if you would like to actually go out there and take a technical training course to actually know how to, install, configure, manage these firewalls, or take a little deeper dive, if you've taken that in the past, we're going to find out more on the technical side of, implementation for Prisma Cortex. We're offering one free technical training voucher. That's a $5,000 voucher. You can contact your KIS account manager that you work with. We'll get that voucher over to you, and same thing. You go out there on the Cloud Harmonics website, pick that date and time for the course that you would like to take. So wanted to add that additional value out there, so you can go out there and see these products and how they could work well with your company. And that is it. I will hand it back to you, Christian or Jane.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that, Jay. And thank you, everyone. Looks like we're going to finish a couple of minutes before, so we're going to give you a few minutes back. But again, we want to thank you for joining us. We want to thank you and hope that you got the you got some valuable information out of this presentation. And we look forward to hearing back from you. And again, the winners will be notified by email. I should have said that as well. And yeah, full speed ahead. Again, thank you, and we'll hope to see you next time. Bye.